Go.
Okay, let's see. Okay, now I need to switch. So I need the big screen, I guess, just so I make sure I pay attention to what I look like on the screen as opposed to, being invisible, right? Which I like. But, we did that chanting class, and the sustained sounds, it's not like they became inaudible, because you could tell there was something going on, but they sort of became invisible. David, could you flip it? Because I see you on the big screen and I'm the little screen. And I focus better on what the camera is doing if I see myself on the big screen. Okay, thank you. Anyway, we're here for the Aikido of San Jose Zoom class. And we were doing the chanting the other day. And what was kind of interesting, I understand it wasn't during the broadcast because people have told me the actual sounds came through, but on the recording of it, what would happen is the note of the sound would keep going, and then all of a sudden it would kind of become invisible. Okay, and by being invisible, it doesn't mean inaudible. In other words, it's not just that you can't hear it, it's almost like the sound was invisible. So we're kind of mixing senses there because an auditory sense, sound, becomes invisible. And so I gave that a little bit of thought as to why it was phrased that way. But one of Ueshiba Sensei's major things is, he really talked about the three worlds, the Genkai, material reality, right here, okay? The Yukai, the hidden realm, and then what he called the divine realm. And just reading through some of his stuff, he indicates, part of his process, you meditate on the material realm just to kind of get a flavor for it. He said like 20 minutes. But then he said 40 minutes you spend in the hidden world, the Yukai. Okay? And, his process was Qing Kuan Qi Shin. Qing Kuan. Calming the soul, spirit, returning to the divine. And so apparently it was a type of meditation or prayer time that he did pretty much every day and for an extended period. And then when he was in the dojo, he would do a short, quick form of it, oftentimes with a staff or a spear or a sword or a fan. And so that part of it, was always fascinating to me, that he was working with a reality that was past our reality, and yet at the same time, in his own way, would supersede our reality. It was a deeper, finer, more original reality. And so, he seemed to indicate that a lot of people, because he used a lot of Japanese Shinto references, as they say I'm teaching religion. He says I'm not. And the way he put it, he said that, he was religious because, I personal sense, he had a sense of reverence for things. And he was a follower of the Omoto religion. But my sense of that is that that was mainly his connection to Unisaburo Deguchi, the head of that church. And so a lot of his development, understanding of the hidden realm, divine realm probably, was shaped by Deguchi Sensei. And so one of the things I thought we would cover today, if I can find it. All right, yes. Okay, this is the Secret Teachings book. In order to perform divine techniques, we need misogi of both mind and spirit. Okay, so right about there, the term divine techniques. Hikitsuchi Sensei used the term, which I assume divine techniques is called kami waza. And he would say things like, and I think a lot of what Hikitsuchi Sensei said in his speech were kind of like quotes from O Sensei, that Aikido wa kami waza no tanren de aru. That Aikido, meaning the movements, were kind of the forging of the kami waza, the divine techniques. And that right there is a pretty major thing. If you look at O Sensei, you look at him on the videos now, that he raises the hand, people fall. People surround him with weapons, and then all of a sudden he kind of steps outside the circle of attackers and they kind of crash into one another. Things like that. And he seems to know what's going to happen before it happens. So, the outward observation of what he's doing from our material mind and our material consciousness. So, most everything that he references is, to some degree, about the hidden and the divine realm. And he's talking to us using words trying to describe that, to us with most of our consciousness in the material realm. And so much of what he says is very challenging because it doesn't make sense. It's either it sounds like poetry, which he wrote, philosophy, which he also, expounded on. But there's a whole bunch of, I would say the wealth of it is in a lot of stuff that is just not apparent. So with that in mind, we go through this again. In order to perform divine techniques, we need misogi of both body and spirit. We need to remake the spirit. Okay? Now that's an interesting one because in some sense he doesn't use the word. He says body and spirit. He doesn't say body, mind. So we need to remake the spirit. Well, Qinghuang Qi Xing, returning to the divine, but calming the spirit, soul, consciousness. Okay, so that's probably what we've been kind of mentioning in these sessions. The journey from I to self, to a more original sense of self as maybe a soul, spirit, true self. So he's saying remake the spirit. That's my basic sense. I'm sure there are other people that might disagree with it or have their own interpretation of it. But since I'm here, that's mine. Okay. And remake, just in some sense, he was somebody who did train. But he wasn't necessarily training in making the techniques better. And he references what he called divine techniques, which to some degree I would think means that you're operating from very deep in what he called the hidden realm and in contact with the divine realm, doing things that are interpreted here in the material realm. But techniques, he uses the term divine techniques. And he says, Ame no ukihashi, the floating bridge of heaven, is explained in Kototama theory like this. So again, he's going into, let's just say, one of his major archetypes in his hidden and divine realm. And that is the floating bridge of heaven. And he also mentions Kototama. Okay? Ah, of Ame is self. meguru, to revolve, turn. Self, turn. But it's, as far as I can tell, and there was a translation of it that Robert Fraser gave me once. And meguru can also mean not just self-revolving, but self-revolving back to itself. Uki, vertical dimension. Ki, obviously, is energy. Uki, floating. Ki. Vertical ki, energy. Right? Ha, as in the bridge, the beginning of it, the horizontal. Shi, the integration of the vertical and the horizontal. So that's ameno uki ashi. So each of the individual sounds has a code meaning to it. Kototam, ameno uki ashi, floating bridge of heaven. Then this naturally gives birth to divine techniques in both the vertical and horizontal dimensions. So, material reality, what he was doing in divine and hidden, comes into being right here. There are a lot of people that probably can see into finer dimensions. But he was able to operate from those dimensions here, right in what he called the Genkai, the material realm. Ki propels our knowledge, virtue, and consciousness. Obviously, Aikido is about ki. And ki, I'm alive, so I'm scratching myself. My body has a certain amount of life force, okay? Ki permeates our senses. Well, what's the use of my ki? Usually is to, my senses, to some degree, reinforce my consciousness of this material world. Okay? Ki is supreme. I've read that he said everything comes out of ki. Ki is the origin of everything. So he's already in a deeper dimensional sense of our word ki. Ki, an idea, ki was sustained as ki, everything comes out of ki. And obviously then we come out of ki. Okay? Ki links us physically to all the gods. And one time, I was in Shingu, and Kisuchi Sensei started talking to me about the kami, the gods and goddesses. And he looks at me and he says, "Hito to chigau yo." He said, "I'm not talking about people. Amaterasu o mikami, Susano no mikami. Ame no minakarushi no mikami." He said, "I'm not talking about people." He looked at me and he said, "Ki nan desu." They're ki. Aspects of ki, aspects of something, archetypes, if you will. Ki links us physically to all the gods and goddesses. So there's this larger sense of ki with different aspects or archetypes, if you will. There's the fact that we also, ki is what animates us. So therefore our own ki can link us to these larger dimensional senses and to a more original spirit, soul level of ourselves. Aikido is based on divine principles. In other words, that realm, the hidden realm, the divine realm, there are principles that exist there. And since we are animated by ki, we also have a connection potentially to those realms. The forging of ki is symbolized by the great god Susanoo. That's the storm god. And Susanoo himself was not, in classical Japanese thinking, a good god. He killed the food goddess. He burned the rice fields of Amaterasu Omikami. And she got so upset, she went into the underground and left the universe in darkness. But on the other hand, as you know, as the chronicles of the gods and goddesses of Kojiki progressed, he became a hero. That he took all that energy and he started to give it a purpose. And so from all of that, he became a protector of Earth. I've always thought, for example, like Susanoo. We have in our culture the archetype, the comic book hero, Superman, Susanoo. And he's referred to as the god of strength and power, one of the gods of Budo or martial arts. And the other one, he's the storm god. So in our Norse mythology and also in the mythology of the Marvel comic book universe, you have the thunder god, Thor. So those are reflections in our culture of Susanoo. Okay? And Aikido elucidates the inner workings of the world. Aikido is based on divine principles. Again, the forging of ki is symbolized by the great god Susanoo. So here we are in physical matter, being much more. And we have all this energy. So Susanoo forged himself to be not just uncontrolled energy that did things that maybe were not good. He became a hero protector. And there was a great dragon that he fought. And found in the tail of that dragon this mystical sword, Ame no Urakumu no Kurugi. Kurugi. So old kin is usually the word katana, sword. Sword is usually, but Tsurugi is a little different. And so that sword is one of the three treasures. You know, the mirror, the sword, the jewel. It's that sword. So you retrieve that sword from the tail of the dragon. That deity, meaning Susanoo, is the king of strength, the king of Budo. So for him, one of the major archetypes in ki was the god Susanoo. Okay, then he goes into, this is the last part for today. Ame no uraku mo kuki samuhara ryu o kami. Ame no uraku mo kuki samuhara ryu o kami. Okay? And when I first got to Japan, I think I spent about a week with Mariani Sensei, and there was another student from Northern California, and we both wound up being in Shingu. And so, you know, she was moving at the speed of life in Tokyo, and I was just out of California where things were kind of cool, laid back. It was quite a conversion. But I do remember her defining, you know, at that time, Ame no Burakumo Kuki Samu Hara Ryu O Kami. Ame no, of heaven or heavenly. Ryu Kuki. The way she described it, Kuki are the impurities, the 9 impurities. Samuhara, earthly creation. Ryu O. See, Ame no Murakumo, kind of like the myriad clouds of heaven. Kuki Samuhara Ryu O. And she said, Ryu O, the Dragon King, flying between heaven and earth, earth and heaven, purifying the universe of the 9 impurities. Now, it's translated a little differently here, but that always stayed with me, okay? And so, Ame no Murakumo, here it is translated as universal energy and breath, the heavenly, myriad clouds. Kuki, the energy that gives birth to creation, the interaction of Izanagi, Izanami. Okay? That's a big one right there. And so, to some degree, the energy that gives birth to creation, the universe, seen not as a fixed thing, but as a creation coming out of Izanagi, Izanami. Those 2 archetypes giving birth to. And maybe a slightly different interpretation of it from me, but things are going, by the time they get to the manifest realm, there's a lot of impurities. You know, we have very dubious leadership in the government. We have the current crisis of the coronavirus. We have a larger climate crisis. We have great division between the real wealthy and the special interests that control our leadership, and the vast majority of people that work and have a certain amount that they have to work for, or almost nothing. So the Dragon King traveling between heaven and earth is to set that aright. And I'm not advocating, you know, social activism or anything, but according to my reading of what O-sensei says, is that part of the activity is to bring the Izanagi, Izanami into balance so that Ame no Murakumo, Samuhara, you have the Kuki, the vital energies of Izanagi, Izanami coming into being here, and from a certain perspective, hidden and divine, there's a perfection of the Kuki, of that tremendous force. And we are a part of that perfection, potentially, because we are animated by Ki. We come out of that. But there is what we call I. And I is really self, but self in a physical body in this world. You know, basically listening to the interior dialogue of this world, okay? And so as I goes to self, experiences of clarity of who we are, we allow or tune into the actual activity of the Dragon King, allowing that energy, that raw energy, just like Susanoo was ultimately not the person who killed the food goddess or drove the sun goddess underground. He was a champion. And to follow that model, okay, which O-sensei is one of the reasons I think he studied the Kochi-ki, right? And Samuhara, set aright, rectify the proper utilization, the interaction of sun, moon, stars, and human body. When things are discordant, malicious energy is created and various disasters result. Samuhara, through the vehicle of Misogi Harai, which is, the Misogi, the sweeping, cleansing energies, is then necessary. It has always been like this in Japan. So he's kind of saying, I think what I was saying, he's placed it in Samuhara. But O-sensei seemed to feel that the purpose of Aikido was aligning ourselves with the Dragon King, traveling earth to heaven, heaven to earth, purifying. In other words, keeping the kuki, the interaction of Izanami creating away from what currently is a very, very inefficient, unfair world, into a world that reflects the design of the hidden and the divine realms. In Ryu O Kami, the guardian deity of Aikido. And apparently World War II, when O-sensei was social distancing in Iwama, farming and training, he got a visitation from the gods and goddesses, and they told him, says, you are now the Dragon King. The Dragon King lives through you. He, okay, it's a he god, all right, apparently, a king. It doesn't mean there can't be a dragon queen, okay? He is in your blood. And O-sensei apparently said, no, I can't be that, that's too exalted. And he got really sick. He got really sick. Then he began to realize why he got really sick, and he accepted the man. Okay, so that's a little bit about the Dragon King. Ameno Urakumo Uki Samuhara Kyuo. And also a little bit of the floating bridge of heaven. So we are at that time, I think, where we go into the actual movement space. So, let's see, bear with me. I'll take the clock. I have my bookend today. Okay, so we are, and let me put this here. And I have my clock. And what we did a little bit last class, we went into the sounds, the A, O, U, E, I. Okay? And a couple things just from the readings. You talked about setting aright the body and spirit. And Where was mind in that? Probably I, this interior dialogue. Mind is very vast, but mind also identifies as I in this material world, in this dialogue. So, body, something he calls spirit. And so last time we did the sounds, which I think we're going to go through probably a lot quicker now. And we asked about if there are any feeling changes in the body. Okay, so let's start with the awe. We'll go through them a little quicker. Notice how that sound goes into a silence. And we're going to make another sound, but right now there's silence, isn't there? And notice how that goes back to silence. And it'll start from silence. Now, if I check to my body, the sound is out there. Oh, the sound starts to get me more into an interior place with the body. But I become a lot more conscious of the silence before and after the sound, or here, sound goes out, comes back to itself, and there's silence. The class we did with the sounds was interesting because I'm not sure that the effect is obvious here, but in the recordings, the sound would go out and the sound would still be going on, except it becomes invisible. Because I was watching it, it's kind of eerie. The sound didn't become silence, it just became invisible. So there's almost a crossing of the senses because you figure the eyes, visible, invisible. The sound was being sustained, but became invisible. And there were kind of like sometimes little ripples of things there. So let's go on to O. And we were kind of mentioning the awe dimension, or open, finer, O, deeper, depth, roots. Okay? Let's move on to U. is more an interior sound. Remember, ooh, of ooh keep, the vertical dimension. Ah, again. Ooh. An increasing sense then of course, the interior nature of the sound. And we didn't get to these last time, so the next sound is eh. And again. And the last one, E, as in Izanagi, Izanami, E. So we did the the O, the U, the E, the E. Okay. Couple things for me. I become a lot more conscious, not just I know about it, but more conscious in the moment feel of the silence that all the sounds go out from and return to. And I also become conscious of a much more of a interior feeling to the sounds, not just out there. Okay? Okay, we have a couple of people here. So anybody with an observation? So if you were here on our last class, we covered a bit more territory. If you are first time today with the sounds, then David, anything for you? Straighten the camera out a little bit. Anything, any observations so far?
The feelings, the physical feelings are deepening, and the sense of relaxation going down into the floor is increasing. Yeah,
in other words, the sounds actually start to give you a different sense of body feel. Okay, which is different than just sort of like having a de facto body stuck in this interior dialogue and a very, very inanimate material realm. You're starting to feel the body. Therefore, maybe your perception of your immediate situation is different. Okay? Anybody else like to share from the sound?
Sure.
Yep.
I had a challenging homeschooling morning this morning with my twins, and I'm feeling like a lot like David is reporting, which is to say I got more relaxed with each vowel.
Okay.
And got to the point where I was just like totally not in my body. There was no tension from.
Oh, good. Yeah. So the sounds themselves seem to be able to get us a bit more present with ourselves. Okay. My normal consciousness is up here in this dialogue, and the world seen from here is in a lot of trouble. Okay. But all of a sudden, I'm starting to be a bit more conscious through my body of a fuller sense of being. And it doesn't mean the conditions in the world are different, but my response to them is not necessarily get stressed out. All right. So, you know, if you had a challenging homeschooling morning, then it's a good idea to go in and do a couple of chants somewhere, you know, where you can just sort of, you know, like, you know, Sensei's words, calm the spirit, return to the divine or more original nature of oneself. Okay? Anybody else want to share anything? Yes? No?
Yes,
Okay.
Sensei.
Yes,
Bonnie
good.
here.
Yeah,
I just wanted to also mention I did feel additional grounding and additional fullness from that. I felt like as I was standing, I could breathe more through my heels, through my whole body, if that makes sense. And then also when we were making the sound, my windows open, the squirrels and birds outside decided to increase their volume and join us. So.
Yeah, that's interesting because, you know, Don Juan used to tell Carlos that after, you know, when you get to a certain level, the world sends you agreements. You do something and you get a sign from the world back. Well, Sensei called that the echo. You bow to the universe bows back. It's an echo. And, you know, what we're really doing is using the sounds, and we notice a change in our body field, which also shifts our consciousness. At his level, what he called kami was, or divine techniques, his movement from here, you know, clearly affected the uke in a way that, you know, other people have worked on that and can do it, but he was doing it at a level that I don't think has been matched yet. Okay? So as we shift our sense of ourselves, and, you know, we're using the body, he says body and spirit, because the mind tends to get caught up. But as the body starts to feel itself more fully and the spirit starts to reside a little bit more interior, as opposed to being pulled out by that dialogue, we start to have an effect to some degree on our situation, our immediate reality. Okay? So, good. I just wanted to shift there. Now, one of the things that this chant, the full one, that Sensei used a lot, was Su into the syllable. Now, I've been taught two versions of it, okay? When I was in Shingu, Hikizuchi Sensei actually taught a formal Kototama class once. And what he taught was Su, O, A, E. So let's try that a couple of times. Ready? Su. Okay, so that was the Su chant that Hikizuchi Sensei taught. Just going back here, anybody with observation? No, these observations more like, okay, I've got my body field. We did that chant a couple times. Anybody with an observation on it? You don't have to, but you know, if you don't have one, you don't have one.
One observation is I was really aware of my internal thinking is, am I doing this in the right order? Because you said there's two ways to do it, and suddenly I'm thinking, oh, am I doing it right?
Yeah, you know, it's a really tricky one because Hikitsusha Sensei taught that one. Okay, and Robert Nadeau Sensei does another one, which we're going to go into, pretty much next. And I had an observation when I was kind of doing the Su O E, okay, which we'll kind of get into a little bit. But the one that Nadeau Sensei uses, and the one that he was taught by O Sensei, is Su Ah. Not Su O Ah, but Su Ah, then U E. And we're kind of like research scientists. So we're looking for a vaccine for the coronavirus. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to use, somewhat clinical methods. But you see, right now, your research vehicle is your body, your mind, and your feel sense of spirit. So let's try the one that Nadeau Sensei does. Ready? And again. And so each of us had an experience, or maybe not. We've tried both of them. So, anybody want to share a comparison or an observation or a non-observation? Anybody?
Nothing beyond the rather mundane observation that the more sounds we do, the more relaxed I'm getting.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's not really a comparison.
Yeah. Okay. All right. David, anything?
My mind keeps going back to, how do I know when I'm doing the right thing?
Yeah.
It's a bit like, if I do a two-step, I can feel whether I'm on balance or off balance, whether my feet are catching on the floor or not catching on the floor, whether I'm tense or. But when I do this, it's sort of like I'm searching for some objective, some thing that I've accomplished, so I'll know whether I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I think a lot of people found O Sensei kind of challenging or perplexing, because he would come in, discourse about things that people maybe just were very confused about. Okay. See, confusion, yeah, I can see where it's very, which is correct, right? I don't know. Really. Bonnie, do you have anything? Yeah, go on, David.
Or, yeah. But then the other part of my mind says, just do it. Don't worry right or wrong, just do it.
Well, there's an area where a lot of times you go into something with the idea that you know the right way, you might be too rigid. And that, you know, a certain openness is actually a strength. Now, sometimes being, you know, in a particular place, there may be a certain confusion, but you're still open at that point. Okay, Bonnie, did you notice anything?
Yes, Sensei, I think I noticed something with the chant we just did. It almost felt like I did a huge jump and then started coming back to center from that jump, from the Su to the Ah. Where the first one we did, it felt like a more gradual wave. So this one we just did, it almost felt like taking a huge breath at once and then just coming back down to center. That's not the best description, but or outside of the circle to the inside versus inside to the outside. That's what it felt like.
Okay, yeah, I mean, you know, you could argue. I think a couple of people, Mary Heine Sensei, she basically, I gather, she taught a Kototama class in Sebastopol, and she was taught by Hikizuchi Sensei. So she did the Su, O, A, E, I. If you follow him on Facebook, there's a page called Ki no Nagare Dojo by Manny Peter Shapiro, who also was initiated into the Kototama by Hikizuchi Sensei. So he, as far as I know, uses the Su, O, A, E. Okay? And I don't know, because I do a lot of work with Robert Nadeau Sensei. We go through, believe me, we go through Su, and we go through what comes after that, like you can't believe, you know, okay? And so the observation I had, because, you know, when I did, you know, because I do the latter one now. I do the Su, A, O, U, E, E, as opposed to Su, O, A, E. Okay, and what was interesting was today when I was doing the Su, O, A, E. Su, Su, Su. If you go from Su to O, there's an A there, which, you know, I hadn't caught before. It's really funny. Su, Su, Su. There's an A there. Su. And you're not consciously forming the A at all. And so when I talked to Nadeau Sensei, I said, well, this is what I was taught in Japan, right, by Hikizuchi Sensei. He said several things. He said one of them was, if you go Su, there's an A before the Su and the O. And so he said, yeah, I could kind of see why, you know, it could just go Su, but Su. All right. So it's a subtle thing. Today I started to pick up that ah when you go Su, O, ah. And I'd never done that before. Hikizuchi Sensei was funny because he was very old school. And so I'm not surprised that maybe in his own mind it was Su, Ah, O, but he taught Su, O, Ah. And if you caught that it was really Su, Ah, O, so be it. And you didn't even have to necessarily consciously do it. But if you sort of cleared enough that all of a sudden your system, in other words, it's like you said, body and spirit, the spirit going through the body, whether you go Su, Ah, O, or Su, O, Ah, corrects the vibrational frequencies that are going through you. I tend to do now the Su, Ah, O. But the other thing that I thought we'd get into, check the time, yeah, is that the E. Nadeau Sensei said that, Sensei would go, re, 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 I. So he would like the would repeat on itself, re, re, and the E would repeat on itself, E. And the thing that I always add is, first one, instead of su, I go su. It's almost like the su, su, su repeats on itself and goes su to u. And Nado Sensei doesn't like that. And, but, in the heart of Aikido, Sensei goes su, u, that first part. U meaning the interior self, su, u, the vertical and uki hashi, right? Su, su. So that's kind of how I do it. Okay. Let's try that a couple times, then we're kind of at 1 o'clock time. So, okay, ready? Su. Okay, anybody with an observation? Because we did a slightly different breakdown of it. Anybody? Su to u, su repeating on itself, echoing back on itself. Su, su. Then there's that second u, ah-oh. Which places you right in the middle of that. And then the e, or the repeating on itself, e repeating on itself, gi. That apparently is the full chant. As best I can do it. Okay, anybody? David, any observations on that? Are you more perplexed than ever? Or?
I think I'm going through the perplexity.
Yeah.
What occurs to me is when I started training, I thought the purpose of Aikido was to make people fall down on the floor. And then as my time went by, I that's sort of like, that's a side effect to know that you're going in the right direction, but it's not the purpose.
Yeah. Okay.
And
all right.
I'm not sure I know what the purpose is any better, but I know that a lot of the things that we do, the result is not the goal.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Or if there's a result, it results in a greater balance or clarity about something. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just, okay, go ahead, Bonnie.
Okay, Bonnie, you go first. Don't worry about it.
Okay. So with that one, I guess with any Aikido or Kodotan I've been doing, the more healing I feel, the better I feel that it works for me. So with this one, I felt part of my shoulders and spine relax more into a place I don't think I felt them be for a very long time. So with that, I did feel some healing there, and maybe a description of chronic rust knocking off, so the Misogi effect. So I did feel a strong Misogi effect with that one.
Okay, yeah. And one of the things you can do, see, it's all theory here, but you begin to kind of, what's your feel sense of things through the body? Okay, so that's important. I can have all this information out there, and it's very confusing. Did Sensei do su, o, a, e, or did he go su, A o u e I, or more completely, su a o e re I. And did he put a su and a rebeat of su ooh before he did that? The Do-sensei and I, we go around on that. He doesn't like me doing that. Jack, I don't know about that either, you know. Well, okay, but that's my feel, sense of it. All right, so if I'm with him, I go su oh, but when I'm by myself, I go su ooh. So, all right.
Sensei, I feel like you're talking about how to spice a stew, naming spices I've never even heard of before, and so I have no reason to understand what you're saying.
Yeah. You know, I mean, if we were, you know. See, what we were trying to say a little bit, you know, you're saying that we must shout the Koto Tama from the floating bridge of heaven, okay? And one of the things about that, well, you can't be too timid, okay? And see, Su, for me, is a very, very expansive sound. It's kind of that sense of the original, you know, point that the Big Bang came out of. Well, Sensei even says that. It says Su. But background to that was ki or energy and everything. It had to organize itself into and through that point. But that original thing was itself. So the actual Big Bang was happening through something that is very difficult to even conceptualize. And then places itself right in the middle of everything that's going on and out and balanced. And then right? So for me, the Su represents creation. And one of the things that Do-sensei says is that you must make yourself ame no uki hashi ni tata saseru koto. You don't just stand there. Ame no uki hashi ni tatsu koto. It's ame no uki hashi ni tata saseru koto, which means to some degree, Su can represent the creation of the universe. But Su can also mean the creation of yourself, standing in that place, the floating bridge of heaven. Su. So Sensei had his rituals, his Chinkon Kishin, and then, you know, he would do movements, boom, you know, creation happening from that point. Boom, 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 boom. So that's kind of stuff I do. So, you know. Anyway, let me, before we go, are there any questions on any of this stuff? Okay, doesn't have to be. Yeah, I mean, the questions may come up, so, you know, we'll do this again, I guess, on Wednesday. So if you have any questions from today, bring it up on Wednesday. See, these movements themselves, you know, boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. that come out of the reverberate or the waves and the spirals that you tune into through the chant. I mean, you can learn, we learn them initially as movements, but then the actual sense of it starts to boom, 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 boom. So that's kind of, what I try to do, Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. So, the Su represents the creation of the universe, but also Su may also represent creating ourselves to stand on that floating bridge. So again, the shouting of it, the intention, and then the sounds themselves, creation of self, a kind of a heavenly body, which then can traverse, the three dimensions, the obvious, the material, the hidden, and finally the divine realm. So Osensei's kami waza, or divine technique, would be things that you start to perform as you stand as yourself, as you create yourself to stand on that floating bridge. Okay? So anyway, that's about it for me. Anybody before I go? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay, take care.
Thank you, Sensei. Thank you, David, for running things.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you, Sensei. Thank you, David.